Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another installment of Taking It Back here on 412 Productions, being syndicated by our friends over at Badlands Media. I'm hanging out with my buddy Frankie Val of the Quite Frankly Show. Zach went to go grab some coffee or something. What's up, Frank? How you doing, man?
Hey man, I feel like we haven't done this in a long time.
It has been a long time. Well, like what? You missed a couple weeks ago, and I
Oh,
couldn't do it last week.
I know.
So
2 weeks ago I was in bad shape. Last week you couldn't do it, and but now here we are after a couple of weeks off.
the band is back together. There's Zach. What's up, Zach? How are you,
Hey, are we
buddy?
live?
We're live. We are live.
I'm back.
Yeah. You got your caffeine. You all ready to go, buddy?
At least it's making me a coffee. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Very
very nice
good.
of her.
It
Yeah.
is very nice of her. I mean, what's a woman for?
Nice.
Man, hey, I'm here to serve her. So, it's a quid pro quo. I'm being honest with you.
This is we can just get a couple of cups of coffee along the way, and it's all worth it.
Yeah.
The whole sordid affair makes up for it.
I wanted to start with this today. I saw this on the Gateway Pundit, and I was curious to see your thoughts on this. So, for the first time, the United States drops off the top 20 list of happiest countries on Earth for the first time ever.
I'm surprised we were in the top 20.
Yeah. So, according to the annual World Happiness Report, which was released on Wednesday, the U.S. was listed at 23rd place, down from 15th place the previous year. Finland is the happiest country in the world, followed by Denmark in second, Iceland in third, Sweden in fourth, and Israel in fifth. Afghanistan is the least happy country at 143rd place. When looking at residents under 30, the U.S. dropped all the way down to 62nd place. However, when looking at only respondents over 60, the United States jumped up to 10th place. So I thought that was kind of interesting. What do you guys think the cause of the drop in happiness, especially with the younger generation compared to the older generation in this country?
It's the gaslighting is catching up to everybody. Even if you don't know how to articulate it, it's still something that the human gut can detect that there's just something off. The shared experience of American life is completely other. It's on the completely opposite side of the emotional spectrum as everything that they're telling us. The job reports are so amazing. Everything is so amazing. And you just know it doesn't feel that way. They can republish anything they want. Socially, we're disgusting. It's totally possible for people to have very fulfilling and thank God, fulfilling personal lives, private lives with your families and everything. And that's what's keeping a lot of this together. But once you start broadening out that consciousness, we're a very sick country. And did you see it was like the psychiatricpost.com. There's an article there that linked so-called woke worldviews with rising depression rates, anxiety rates, and all that stuff. And it's because it's rooted in in the life of a slave. There's no real out on that. There's no actual solution for this ridiculously misdiagnosed problem that humanity can be fixed by the stroke of a pen. And all it does is just make people hate each other more resentful. When you try to legislate equality, it's completely hollowing out. It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everything Frank said. Plus, if I was under 30 and still living with my parents, I'd be super depressed too. And that's probably a large portion of those people who were asked about this. The inability to achieve the American dream. I think that would cause a great amount of despondency. And then also being fully aware that there's really no answer to claw yourself out of that, because every single time you try, the government just comes and smacks you down just a little bit more. Everything's getting more expensive. Everything is getting more difficult. Your education means less and less. You're watching people around you being given a hand up, people who are not even citizens of the United States. The hilarious part is that you've got people who have been convicted of, nonviolent felonies. They don't have a Second Amendment, but now illegal aliens have a Second Amendment. I mean, it actually says on the registration card when you go in to buy a gun, are you a citizen of another country? Are you here illegally? You're not supposed to be able to get a gun. And if anybody is an illegal alien in the United States with a gun, they got it illegally. But I guess that means absolutely nothing now. So to be an American, it does not mean the same thing that it meant before. And a lot of people, obviously, we're hoping to change that. But the truth of the matter right now, this sad, sick truth, is that this country is failing and we're watching it. We have a front row seat to it. I think that would make anybody depressed.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'll add in too. I think that the state of our food supply with all the GMOs, pesticides, and just the fake nature of so much of the food in this country, and the way the iron grip big pharma has on this country have a lot to do with it too. We're poisoned in our food supply, and then we're given bad medicine. I think it creates a lot of mental illness and depression just chemically based on what we ingest every single day. So I want to add that in there too. How you mentioned the illegals being able to get guns. The irony of that wasn't that decided on in Chicago? Wasn't that where the court was?
Illinois,
In
Obama
Illinois.
appointee. The real irony? Well, I was just at the gun store like a week ago, and I was like, "Hey, are they letting illegals buy guns yet?" And this guy Kirk behind the counter, he's like, "Oh, that's a good one. Probably pretty soon." And then boom.
Seriously though, I mean, what kind of precedent does that set as far as nullifying every state's gun regulations? If every piece of legislation that has been passed on the state level to regulate the possession and of guns, the purchase, possession, practice, the usage of guns, if all that is been made to regulate the behavior of American citizens, and here we have somebody BTFO the any kind of attempt to regulate a non-citizen from carrying, and using the whole premise here is that there could be a need to use this in self-defense. I mean, this is for a non-citizen. Does that not completely destroy every attempt to regulate a citizen?
You would think so, but I don't think the ATF is going to be fighting too hard to make sure that illegals don't have their guns. I mean, the pro-gun laws that states have tried to put into effect, they've gone after pretty heavily, and the government has done everything in their power to go ahead and stop that. But I think you're right; it does nullify, any of the protections that we have in place, and I think it's kind of a precursor to seeing the rest of our rights and our civil liberties stripped away and having them, just handed off. They're looking. It appears that they're looking to place illegals at a sort of a higher position on the pecking order than actual American citizens. I mean, certainly all of the aid that would otherwise go towards American citizens, now it's being diverted towards illegals. I mean, I was just watching this thing earlier today. The city of Denver, they're closing their Secretary of State's offices on a rotating basis. Each office will be closed for 1 week, and it's different throughout the state so that they can save money on it. They're also shortening the number of hours. So they're also shortening the number of hours that individual employees will have. So that means more part-time employees, so less overtime that they're going to have to pay, less benefits they'll have to pay. They're closing down community centers for after-school programs. So children that would perhaps be at risk are now going to be put into a position where they're going to be, wandering around after school looking for things to do. And chances are pretty good they're going to find their way into the bevy of drugs that are available on the streets that are coming in from those illegals. And it's a sick, sick world that we're living in right now. November can't come soon enough. And even if that does happen the way we think it's going to happen, I mean, this is a big Gordian knot to try to unravel. I mean, this is like a bag of snakes, and they've completely entangled themselves in each other. And every single time you try to unwind it, something's going to bite you, and it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited for November, just because it's a thing. You
Yeah.
know, it's like a holiday is coming, and the one way or another, it's just going to be crazy. And you
Yeah.
know, you just want to be in the bustle of it all. But when you really analyze honestly the way that this that we are the way that each state over the last however many generations has been groomed to operate, to view its relationship with the federal government, to rely on the federal government, the way that state culture and state governments has changed. I mean, the fact that there are so many sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. I mean, that is something that exists even if the federal government goes away. Regardless who gets elected in November as president. So I mean, you're talking about a cancer that has metastasized in such a way that it really is telling you. I don't know. I think a good amount of people. I don't see how anybody can really be very very happy about our prospects if you actually read between the lines, because even those who like I said before can't articulate, their gut must be screaming that something is wrong. Good. It's actually actually happy for them that they don't know how wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach, you mentioned how, it's affecting a lot of the resources that some of these cities. Do you guys see this story about my hometown in Pittsburgh? They're not answering emergency calls from
Oh, yeah.
3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Yep.
anymore. I mean, nobody at the police stations between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like the purge. Just like the alarm.
Now,
the
when does that kick in? That 4 hour grace period?
I think it's now.
Yeah, it's already done. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got a friend who's a cop in Pittsburgh. She's a detective in the Special Victims Unit, and it's been bad there for quite a long time. Like a year and a half ago, we did an interview because the COVID mandates, the clot shot mandates, they lost so many officers. People were just like leaving in droves, and they had like a 50% vacancy at that time. So I can only imagine it is worse now than it was then. So I don't even know how they've been able to keep it up as long as they have. But I mean, it goes to show you. I mean, this is unsustainable.
Yeah, last I heard, they're like, I think 200 to 300 cops short of where they normally have their hiring levels, which is not good. And anyone that's listening that's from Pittsburgh or around Pittsburgh, you could see like the homeless tent cities growing and popping up in places they've never used to be. Even within this last year, on my way into the office, I have to commute to every once in a while. I noticed one along the river that it just every time I drive by it, it's more crowded and more tense up there, and it's sad to see the city just kind of slowly deteriorating from the inside, and then to hear they're cutting police. Um, it's just going to lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh's not unique in that way. There's so many cities dealing with this right now.
I know. I know. Man, this is depressing.
Well, let's go ahead and take care of a couple of our sponsors here, and we'll go from there. The first one is Love Litters. So, attention, all you Badlanders with purring pals and feathered friends. Say hello to Love Litters, 100% pure kiln-dried wood, free from chemicals and oh so kind to Mother Earth. No dust, no mess, and no toxins. Just a lightweight solution that's gentle on your wallet and even gentler in your home. Our biodegradable litter is crafted from wood destined for landfills, giving it a new purpose in your pet's life. Cats love it. Our astonishing formula works like magic to neutralize the notorious cat urine odor, keeping your home pine fresh and welcoming. For bird lovers, it zaps moisture from bird droppings, crumbling them all away, all while being safe if pecked at or ingested. For reptiles and critters too, our mix is crafted to dilute the pine scent, ensuring those little lungs stay happy and healthy. Plus, every 30-pound bag of Love Litters will last up to 6 months, saving you money. Transform your pet care routine today. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/litter. That's badlandsmedia.tv/litter, and breathe easy with a litter that loves your pets as much as you do. And then we've got a quick 60-second message from our friend Mike Lindell.
Over the last 20 years, with all your support, we've been able to not only launch the original MyPillow, but also the MyPillow mattress topper, Giza Dream bed sheets, My Slippers, and the MyPillow bath towels. But there's so much more. In fact, we have over 200 products, and I'm so confident that you'll love each and every one of them that when you go to MyPillow.com now, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20 just for checking out the website. No purchase necessary. Get everything from MyPillow blankets, sleepwear, kitchen towels, mattresses, duvets, pet beds, body pillows, comforters, couch pillows, bathrobes, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And remember, just for checking out MyPillow.com, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20. No purchase necessary. This is a limited time promotion, so go to MyPillow.com now.
All right, big thank you to MyPillow and Love Litters for sponsoring the show. Please go support our sponsors. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're watching on Rumble, hit the red pill button and repost the show on pilled.net. And again, thank you guys for all the love and support out there. We were talking about the immigration issue and how it's affecting the cities. I don't know if you guys saw any of this this video just popping on Twitter not long before we went live here, but they're literally being overrun at the border right now. Check this out.
Yep.
What do they got those M16s for?
I mean, the same exact thing I'm asking. They haven't okay, you're not going to use your guns. Can you deploy a water cannon? Anything?
How about a flashbang, guys?
Do you think that behavior like this, these people are looking to become wonderful neighbors to you and your neighbor? You want these people in your neighborhood that they're going to calm down once they're on the other side? Look at this. Look at this animal behavior, this feral behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Use the guns that you have.
It's over. Yeah. There's no more politeness when that happens.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's literally an invading army. You know, if you look at these people, they're mostly fighting age men. Now they want to allow them to buy guns and carry weapons. I mean, it really is an invading armed force that does not have good intentions for the citizens here. So it's getting bad, and the polling is really starting to even people, the Latino population in this country has been polled recently saying they trust Donald Trump's immigration policies far more than Joe Biden's. He's losing that demographic rapidly, which I think is, again, good news for November if we survive and make it that long as a country.
Yeah.
I think we will.
A lot of talk about black swan events lately.
I was just noticing that. Yes, a couple of different ones in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I was going to do a little bit on that tonight, just because I was going to talk to the Collins brothers about the post-human world, and I said, well, I guess this all goes hand in hand, and because my whole thing is, well, we probably have a flock of black swans coming our way, an entire flock, because how many fronts can do us in right now? Where the fact that in the last week and a half, there has been several really, really damning admissions about NATO Western troops that are in Ukraine. Admissions in that every single one of them gives Vladimir Putin the right to act militarily and blow this thing open. Then you have economic situations. You have the invasion at the border you're just showing there. You have so many different social cliffs that we're dangling from, that I would say that we're actually on the other side of at this point. I mean, it's just so much. There are people who are now going out there and prepping just because of they don't know what's going to happen on April 8th with the day of the eclipse. The Israelis are about to kill those red heifer cows. Jeez, man. I mean, how many swans, how many geese are there? They're going to have to go into geese. There's no more swans.
Oh my God.
I mean, I fully expect something crazy to happen between now and the election. I don't know which of the things you rattled off is really going to be what does us in, but I don't expect just, the election to come and go without any major event.
How could
I
it?
will, yeah. I will say the whole thing with Putin, the guy has shown unbelievable amounts of patience and poise with this whole situation. He could have easily acted differently with the way the West is provoking and antagonizing him. It paints him in a very positive light to me. Not that I think he's like the best guy in the world or anything like that, but the way he hasn't responded to any of the antagonization from the United States or NATO, I think is admirable. Honestly, like he's not looking to set the world on fire. He's doing his best to maintain the peace. Almost, it would appear.
He seems to be cool as a cucumber. I mean, he's certainly got a spot more poise than Joe Biden or any of the NATO aligned nations, it seems.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Nutty.
Absolutely.
Nutty. Hey, do you guys know, actually, Zach, do you know about the day or the circumstances, the conditions that these red heifers are going to be sacrificed?
Oh, we were just talking about it last night, actually. Yes. So I don't know the exact day, but I know that they've built the altar of sorts.
Ramp.
It's like
The
the ramp with the altar on the end. And I know that they're going to sacrifice them. They're going to burn them. And from that vantage point, they can see the dome of the mount. And then once they burn those cows, then the next step would be to blow up the mosque, and then they could go ahead and rebuild the third temple. The only thing standing in the way is the Israeli government. They're not in favor of it. And from what I understand, it's a select group of fairly radical Jews, I guess you could say. It's not like the majority of the Jewish world thinks this is a good idea, but I mean, I've read the Bible verses, and I mean, it's not like a directive per se, but it just says, this has got to happen. If, X, Y, and Z, we're going to have to sacrifice these heifers if we're going to be able to build the third temple. So I think that it's, I mean, it could very easily be just like one of those like touchstones that they constantly go back to keep people's minds inflamed and, continue this never ending tit for tat. I think that as long as Palestinians and Muslims exist in that area, there's no way it's going to happen. But if they are successful with their deportation plans, then I think all bets are off. They'll probably do it.
I'd never heard of this red heifer thing until just now. That's interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Last night was the first time I heard about it. Somebody brought it up in the chat.
Well, these are the heifers. Are these four? Okay, I think there's four that need to be killed, right? 3 or 4.
It's 3 or 4. Yeah.
And these are the ones I've known about this. I know, and I once knew a little bit more about how it fit in on the timeline to Armageddon, but but I believe that these heifers came from Texas.
They definitely came from Texas. Yes, they are Red Angus. Yeah.
They were. I remember it was. I don't know how many years ago it was. It had to be at least 2 or 3 years ago now. I remember the headlines about these red heifer cows were exported from Texas to Israel specifically for this purpose when the time was right or whatever.
Yeah. So, they've got to complete the third temple so that the Jewish Messiah can then come, and then, ipso facto Armageddon. There we go. Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, I'd never heard that. Never heard of that. You guys, totally new for me.
Let me see. I have a pretty good article.
Better watch out.
I'm watching out.
Here we go. The red heifer and the third temple in end time prophecy. Let me go ahead and send this over to you, Adel.
Go ahead. Okay. Go through it a little bit if you want.
Yeah.
You have something else since we're on the topic.
Yeah, let's check it. I'm 100% down to check this out.
Black swans, red heifers.
Here we go. So the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you Israelites, excuse me, a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelites and the aliens living among them. Throughout the almost 1900 years of exile, the Jewish people yearned to return to Israel, build the third temple in Jerusalem, and restore the temple service. 3 times a day, observant Jews pray, may the holy temple be rebuilt speedily and in our day. Although the Jewish people have always lived in the Holy Land, after the Holocaust, the Jews began returning to Israel in mass. In 1948, the Jewish nation was prophetically reborn as the state of Israel, and ever since, Jews have been streaming back to the land from all 4 corners of the earth.
So I think there's a lot more than 4 corners, if you ask me.
All right, so what does a cow have to do with the rebuilding of the Holy Temple? How could a simple animal play a vital role in the success or failure of such a monumental event? God's word states that only the red heifer can restore the biblical purity needed to rebuild the temple. Then Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of its red heifer blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting. An unblemished pure red heifer is the key ingredient to temple worship. I guess that's one of the there.
When it comes to ritual, I understand that people can create rituals that are very, very powerful if there is a monotonous way that they're put together, if you especially have other people joining you, if you take certain conditions and times and rhythm into consideration, and if you're really trying to put human intention into it. But when I read stuff like this, as much as I have been drawn back to learning from the Bible, understanding it, when I hear sprinkle 10 drops of blood in front of the tent of meeting and turn around 3 times and hop on your head, I'm just like, did this really, that really came from God? It makes me really just like, okay, is there something else here that I'm missing? It just sounds so silly.
Yeah.
So I just sent over a video, which is Bibi Netanyahu speaking with Rabbi Lubavitch. Lubavitch told Netanyahu that he would be the last leader of Israel and that he would be the one to bring about the Messiah. And that obviously, includes the red heifer sacrifice, the rebuilding of the third temple. And that along with that, obviously that's going to be it. It's going to be game over. So
that's 1990.
1990. Yeah.
It's only a minute long. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
בזמן שישראל לאחרונה נתפסו כמה עניינים. מה שרואה עוד, וגם משהו שעדיין משיח ליבו. אז הייתה משהו ומה ידיעתו. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שעות בגלל עדיין ליבו. אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום, בבשורות טובות. זה שמחה וטוב לבוא. כדי שחסידים מקפידים שכל ימנו יהיו שמחה. בשורות טובות, הצלחה רבה.
So first of all, the rabbi tipped Netanyahu, like actually gave him $1 or something. I thought that was interesting. But since 1990, at least, they've been working to bring about the end times, like to force it to actually happen. And, it's part of this prophecy that Lubavitch told Bibi. and kind of scary,
Yeah, it is kind of scary when, regardless of how very technically true it is, in a technical sense, if this really is just something that is or preordained, it's been written down, it's going to happen, and there's some kind of supernatural power that is tied to the completion of such, rituals and whatever. But it's also just as crazy, just as scary, crazy scary when you observe people who are obviously very invested in this thing being real and happening. I mean, you look at any of those cults in the 1990s that put a sleeve of quarters, a roll of quarters in their shirt pocket, and then drank Kool-Aid and killed themselves because a comet was going to take them away. At least they only killed themselves for their beliefs. Whenever you see people get together and they're very serious about this shit, I'm just like, hey, you know what? Whether it's true or not, these people got to be watched carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding. No kidding. Here's something I didn't have on my bingo card for ever really, but I don't know how much discussion there really is around this, but I saw this today. At Jack tweeted, "Watch this too. Everything is a rich man's trick."
No way,
Wow.
really?
He put that whole thing out there.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about it. It's crazy.
Now I've got some problems with this documentary, but there's great breakdowns as far as how the world wars were invested in very strategically. Who invested in the labor camps out there, things like that, and then of course very meticulous breakdown of JFK's death, the actual mechanics of the shooting gallery that they set up and the people involved. It's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff I find wanting with that, but I still think it's one of the greats out there as far as independent documentary making.
Yeah, it's definitely a compelling film, certainly worth watching, and it's been hidden on YouTube for a really long time. So it's pretty surprising that Jack would share that out.
Yeah. If you got, what is it, like 4.5 hours? You got 4 hours to spare. Definitely check it out. But it is a good one. I watched this a long time ago. I couldn't believe that Jack shared that out, but I wanted to just throw that out there because I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, I wanted to get you guys' take on the whole bloodbath hoax. Donald Trump over the weekend, this past weekend, was talking about the auto industry, was talking about how he was going to put 100% tariff on Chinese manufacturers manufacturing in Mexico, trying to sell their cars in the United States. And in the context of that, he says, that's if I'm elected. If I'm not elected, it's going to be a bloodbath, meaning the auto industry and the economy in general. The mainstream media, well, this clip right here pretty much sums up the way they took the comments. Here's Morning Joe and Mika here. Take a listen to this freak out, and then I'd love to get your guys' reaction.
He's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, presidents, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath. And when he finishes by saying, and that's just going to be the least of it, seriously, these people may be stupid. We're not. He's talking.
I'd argue.
Stupid is only the beginning of it.
Yeah. What's funny is that somebody, after that whole, psyop started, somebody went and found a clip of Democrats and mainstream media recently using the term bloodbath, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And James Carville just made an allusion to like Donald Trump's assassination. Like somebody else did that online too. It's ridiculous.
I don't know what else there is to say because we've just seen it so many times. Honestly, things like this is a stopgap measure until they find something else. This only really occupies occupied a week. It happened on like a Saturday. They kept it in the top of every major news site, to the top of the site until at least Monday, just in case people were just, like absent for the weekend and actually giving themselves a little bit of rest. They kept it waiting there as if it was real. And why? I mean, because the week before that was the State of the Union, and of course Joe Biden, any president usually gets a small bump from the State of the Union, didn't do anything for him. So, I mean, you got to find something here where a guy, Donald Trump, who has essentially been hidden, and I got to stay still at this point, just from a strategic standpoint, where at the end of March here, he is still largely hidden himself by not engaging on Twitter. The media is not going out of their way to cover him on all that stuff. And even with that absence in the media that he had, compared to the presence he had in 2015 leading up to 2016, he's climbing in the polls. So I wonder, it's actually, I should say, it's no wonder why this whole bloodbath nonsense was kicked around as long as it has. But still, why the hell do you think he's keeping himself off of Twitter for this long? When does that all go away?
I've disagreed with that decision from the very beginning, Frank. I have no idea why. I mean, he gets okay engagement on Truth Social, but it's a small fraction of the exposure he would get on Twitter if he was over there. It's maybe an ego thing, because he's personally tied to Truth Social, and if you can't get his stuff exclusively there, the platform is completely meaningless. I mean, I don't go on there.
The board over there at Truth Social has got to understand here that if he becomes president and then only exclusively uses Truth Social, what that means, if he doesn't become president again, then this is going to become, over time, just another obscure echo chamber of a platform. So for the next couple of months, get over it and get engaged.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's purely a business decision. I mean, like the merger, going public, the whole thing hasn't happened yet. Once it does, then I think maybe a different scenario.
Yeah, they need some extenuating circumstances here. Only a couple of months out.
Also consider this. I mean, Trump's audience comes to him. I mean, is he really going to get that big of a push for the election from going to Twitter? Is it a necessity? I don't think so.
Here's why I think it's important, Zach, because when he was on Twitter before, it was the whole system was completely gamed and manipulated by the Marxists that were running the company at the time. So he would post something on Twitter, and if you clicked on the post, all you got to see in the replies was negativity towards Donald Trump. There was like this gaslighting that everything he said was unpopular, that was causing outrage, being perceived as hateful or whatever. You had like the Krasensteins and the Palmer reports and Brooklyn Dad or whatever. Just those were the first names you saw, everything that he posted. Now it's a completely different ball game on Twitter, and an opportunity for people like us to be able to respond under those tweets, get people saying that it's not all negative because it's not gamed and manipulated anymore. And I think it's a breeding ground for more independent conservative voices to be able to grow a following too, by mixing it up in those comments now that it's fair. So I just feel like there's major opportunity lost to kind of change the perception of how he's perceived, if that makes sense, and just the health of the overall online conversation after the massive damage these big tech companies have done by segregating us into our little digital corners and ghettos and echo chambers. I feel like he's one of those rare people that can post something and you can get a lot of good back and forth, and where the two sides can actually have it out in a public way that people can see and, maybe actually get involved in. So
you're it's a good point there about how just the atmosphere on Twitter has changed. It's not that he's just been reinstated, but the atmosphere has changed to a degree. At least it is from January of 2021, the culture has loosened up considerably. It is not a perfect place, and there's still a lot of really, really bad people working at Twitter or X or whatever you call it. But I think it's more so just about in a time frame that you have left before an election day. If you are any major candidate and you are not at least trying to inject yourself into a platform like that to occupy the minds and to be the one to at least put forth something that could force everybody to report on you again instead of being the one reacting, that is that's something that is at least a little bit more proactive, I think. So I don't know.
I disagree, because I think he's already infected everybody's minds. He's infected the media's minds. They haven't stopped talking about him since he left Washington, D.C. I mean, and I don't think he's really reacting to much of it at all. I mean, obviously he's got the legal crap going on, but I mean, the perception from rational people is that the state is using its tremendous power to go after this man who's simply running for president. I mean, you've got this mirror situation where all the crimes that Donald Trump is being accused of committing, Joe Biden has actually committed. And, it looks to me like they're desperate. Like they want to take him down so bad that they're willing to devote virtually all of their time to it. And all he has to do is walk into a room and they put a headline out about how he shot like a 9-year-old boy or something like that. I mean, just like completely inflammatory and ridiculous stuff. And I think that I think that people are already thinking about Donald Trump from the perspective of their lived experience. I mean, like, think about how many people have decided that they're going to be voting for him in November, not because of anything he's said, but because of everything Biden's done. I mean, Donald Trump, he's just continued to be himself. He's continued to do his rallies. He's got his messaging. It's out there on his own time. He appears to be somebody with a big swinging dick. Pardon my French. He doesn't have to do anything. Everybody else are the ones who have to do something to stop him. And I think that it shows that he is perfectly comfortable exactly where he is. He doesn't need Twitter. I think that they would love to have him on Twitter because it would drive engagement. It would increase the value of that platform. And I think that the value is Donald Trump. I think that wherever he is, he's going to be bringing that value, whether it's in the White House to the people of this country or to wherever he hangs this at.
Point taken.
Yeah, it is a good point. I'd still like to see him on there, though. I would, and I do find it.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, the one post he did make was the mug shot, right? The one that he really wanted to put out there for everybody to see. Yes, exactly. the mug shot. He made sure he used the Twitter account for that. So he knows how powerful that is. I think he knows how important that is. My guess is that between now and November, he's gonna get back on there and start utilizing it again. To what extent, I don't know, but I think
on election night when he says I've won. Fuck all of you.
Oh, things are getting so bad right now. I almost would be skeptical of him winning. Like if he won, I'd be like, wait a second, how? I almost feel like I don't know. This is how upside down everything is.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's like, wait a minute. This isn't supposed to be allowed to happen. So how are we being scammed here?
I know. What's the angle here? You know what? Shut up and take the win gracefully, bro.
That's pretty funny. All right. Take care of a couple more sponsors here, and then I got one more thing I want to get to before we bounce out of here. Our next sponsor is a new one to Taking It Back. It is Ready Radio. Do you have comms? Do you have a comms plan with your loved ones for when the cellular grid goes down? If the cost and complexity of radio feels overwhelming, Ready Radio is your answer. Ready Radio arrive at your door pre-programmed and ready to go. These Bofeng two-way radios are reliable devices procured, programmed to your specific area, and shipped by an America First family in Montana. You could spend thousands of dollars and countless hours just to dip your toes into ham radio, but that's not feasible if you're just looking for a simple backup communication source when there's no other option. Get a Ready Radio for every member of your doomsday crew by going to badlandsmedia.tv/ready. Enter promo code Badlands to save 10% on your purchase. Note, an FCC license is not required in an emergency. That's badlandsmedia.tv/ready. Promo code Badlands for that 10% off. And then our final sponsor today is the Badlands Shop. So welcome to the Badlands Media Shop, where we've partnered with Patriot companies to offer products for just about every category of life. Browse the virtual shopping aisles and rest assured knowing that your purchases align with your values. Shop with peace of mind, avoiding woke companies with woke principles while supporting your favorite podcasters. Whether you're shopping for everyday household items or a unique gift that's for a special someone, skip the big box store, head over to Badlands, shop first, and support a Patriot business in Badlands with every purchase. Excuse me, from boomerangs, yes, those boomerangs, to gun holsters, from children's books to pet food. We have just about everything, and we're just getting started. Thank you, Badlanders, for your continued support and patriotism. We couldn't do this without you. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop. So
I gotta get myself a boomerang.
yeah. All right. So earlier this week, the Supreme Court heard First Amendment arguments in this Missouri versus the federal government, or I think that's what it is, Murphy versus Missouri, and all about the First Amendment. And Justice Ketanji Brown said some interesting things. I want to play this clip and get your guys' thoughts on this.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country. And you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
Encouraging?
So,
you mean like putting?
Because I'm really worried about that.
No, you're just
because
stupid.
You've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective, and you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
No.
And Your Honor, I understand.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's one of the stupidest people I've ever
really
seen.
She's very, very smart. She's very smart. Mike, my God. God really broke the mold when he made Katanjo.
Yeah.
Not only does she not have the ability to define what a woman is, she also thinks that the First Amendment is repressing the government's ability to repress your speech. It's called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. She should probably read those if she's going to be a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah, it's called natural law.
Yeah.
And the other thing there too is so incredible because it's just like, well, you're saying that I would say that the government has a duty to no, 250 years later, you think there's some buried implication inside of a limited form of government, that there's some kind of a buried opt-out clause. It's like the morons who will tell you, it's in the preamble of the Constitution, you general welfare retards need to go to sleep and leave the thinking to someone else. They all come from this place where, yeah, the Constitution was a brilliantly constructed document that codified these checks and balances that kept a general government completely restrained to only a very short set of duties so that the individual states can take care of literally everything else at their own sovereign discretion. But there is this one little clause that actually lets the government do everything it wants. It's like it's restrained but also unlimited. They are retards. And they want somebody out there to believe them, because if everybody else believes their ramblings, if they're more uneducated than they are, than Kitanjo is, then all of a sudden it starts making a lot of sense. You know? Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, hey, listen, I don't know what it would take if it's unconstitutional or whatever for somebody from the general government, a president, to go out there and do a public service announcement encouraging children not to do drugs, but to start a federal task force to start breaking up, whatever, and charging kids for truancy and what, that's something else. If she's talking about using the government, does the federal government have free speech? Can somebody from the federal government go out there and make a PSA about something? Maybe, but as long as it's not action, they have no right. None. Any officer of the federal government has individual right to free speech. They can speak on something and talk about what they wish could be legislatively possible, but there's no authority for them to act. It's so simple. And these midwits that get into the Supreme Court, they're trying to think their way out of a paper bag, like it's something like sophisticated. It's not sophisticated at all.
It's so true. And look at how they've used this, right? Or what they've coerced these social media companies to take down, starting with the Hunter Biden laptop, which ended up being real, which had an effect on the outcome of an election. So, I mean, they actively engaged in election interference. You look at COVID, any science behind lockdowns, masks, the vaccines, the lab leak theory. All of that was the government was coercing social media to stop those stories from circulating. All of those ended up being true and eventually reported on by the mainstream media. So it is hamstringing the government's ability to protect people, because the only thing they're protecting people from is the truth. I mean, they're making up whatever narrative is convenient to whatever they're trying to do at the time, and then silencing opposition based on this idea that they're keeping people safe. And time again, we've seen that when they do this, it's not even to protect people from anything nefarious. It's to protect them from inconvenient facts and narratives that would have people questioning the actions of the federal government. So it's double offensive. It's unconstitutional, and the way they're using it isn't like a bunch of well-to-do people doing their best and just making honest mistakes. Yeah. These are bought and for crooks wielding the power of the government to manipulate people into behaving in the way that they want them to behave. So it's offensive and disgusting on two different levels there.
It is. Listen, guys, I hate to do this, but I have to bounce so that I can get to my other show.
Take care, brother.
Right.
I love you both. Thank you, everyone. Peace.
Thank you, Zach. Well, Frank, I got you for a couple more minutes here. What are your thoughts on the TikTok ban and that whole thing? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you like the idea of what they're doing with TikTok or trying to do with TikTok? There's been a lot of debate on that bill. Have you looked into it at all?
My initial, just my gut instinct says no, leave it the hell alone. Yeah. But and I have only really started using it to try to see if I can make any kind of headway for my show with like clips from the show and stuff. So I'm not even really that invested in it, but just as far as the managing of the landscape and knowing just how important it has become for so many millions of younger people in this country. Now, to say has it become a vessel for cultural subversion? Everything is. Everything is. Is it possibly unsafe data wise? Everything is. Is it, are foreign actors using it to spy on us? I'm sure. And I'm sure that the federal government is spying on us through TikTok as well. I just don't, what is the main what's the main thrust of those who really do believe that it would be advantageous for us as a country or a culture to ban TikTok? Can you tell me like the top three things that are
Well,
actually good points?
well, so what they're citing and what the bill does is it basically allows the president to ban any application that is owned more than 20% of the application is owned by a foreign adversary. So a country like Iran or China or Russia, if they own over 20% of one of these companies, then the federal government can then give the company a ultimatum to either have them divest from it, those countries divest from it, or it be banned. Now, a lot of people, this is a separate from the bill itself, don't like, what it does to us culturally. Whether it's like the ADD nature of the platform, the way it affects the brain and the dopamine levels in your brain and whatnot as you're scrolling through. There are people that don't like it because it's very censored towards or it's very manipulated to push one side of the political aisle's agenda versus another. And then of course there's like the data issue. It's spying on you. It's recording the keystrokes on your phone. It's taking that data and doing things with it. So there's a lot there. My thought, Frank, was just instead of focusing on one individual company or who's invested in it, like outlaw behaviors. Like if you don't like, for instance, the way the application is recording things on your phone or collecting data, outlaw that. Or if you don't like these social media companies selling your data, then write a law that prohibits the sale of user data on from these applications. Like that, I don't understand the angle they're going to try to outlaw TikTok. Doesn't make any sense to me because Facebook, probably Twitter, X, Instagram, all of them probably are doing very similar things. Why they're picking
Absolutely.
Yeah, so to me, it's like they're not really solving any problems here. They're just creating a law that gives way too much power to way too few people to be able to manipulate the marketplace.
And it's not even just the applications. It's just like think about your average search engine that people use. Think about the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people who use Google as a search engine. I mean, there's tons of things that you're punching in there all day, asking about things that you never even, actually search on. You delete before you think twice. I mean, God knows how incognito the incognito window actually is. Imagine how safe people feel when they go to the incognito window to search for something a little bit more sensitive than they're comfortable putting into a public search. And it's just like this is just the nature of living in this digital environment here. So I think that you have a point there. If you're going to legislate on anything, then go out there and try to put some general laws and practices in there that actually go and protect the consumer from having their information done away with, and maybe that has some kind of a trickle down effect that encourages and forces all of these platforms to maybe tinker with what's going on in the back end. At the other hand, would TikTok or Instagram or anybody else not have some sort of a gripe and saying, hey, listen, you're going to have to define what kind of data collection is vulturous, because we do have a right to exist as a business. And if people are, and if based on people's posting habits, if they're tagging where they were when they posted at a certain time, if they're tagging, if they're uploading things, if they're clicking, based on clicks and likes and comments and whatever, that they can collect enough data there to see what certain demos want as far as products go, to help with advertising on the platform. You can't tell online platforms not to collect certain data. The thing is that that basic data is, they're not getting into they're not getting really anything more. I mean, who knows? Like I said, that you'd have to define what it is, because travel basic likes, consumer activity, all that stuff. I think that could be torturous interference right there too with a company that wants to be able to sell advertising dollars. So it's going to have to get very, very specific, and it's going to have to come down to consumer protection practices and not just outright bans. I also believe that trying to stop a company from being owned by a foreign actor it past 20% is ridiculous too. If somebody's too scared of China to never touch TikTok, then fine. But obviously, consenting adults don't give a shit.
Right.
I don't know. It makes ridiculous. It's everything's
Yep.
Mary Ellen says it's a Trojan horse. Everything's a Trojan horse. If you're on the internet, you have given up so much information. So much information. When I leave the studio at night, my phone tells me how long the drive is going to be to the diner because it knows I'm going to the diner. You know, I mean, that's just, and I've never asked the phone where the diner is. It
Right.
just knows where I'm going.
Yeah, the phones have been able to do that for a long time. I remember when I bought a new phone 10 years ago. After a week of commuting, it was like, oh, you ready? Like it would tell me like, oh, it's time for you to leave for work. You ready to go home? Here's a traffic report. And I never put either of those addresses in my phone, but it knew where I was going. So that's
Mary Ellen said she meant the bill was a Trojan horse. Well, that I can understand because it's just too broad. It's too broad. Yeah. And like you said, Adel, if TikTok gets, I don't know, blacked out through an act of Congress, what does that do to the stock value of Facebook tomorrow?
Exactly. You know? Yeah. And again, it feels like they're picking winners and losers, and they're again creating mechanisms to give the top way too much power, too much unilateral power to affect the marketplace. And in my opinion, go after platforms that cause narrative issues for them. Anyway, we're a few minutes late here. So go ahead, Frank, let us know what you got going on tonight. And by the way, I downloaded the new MLB The Show today.
And what was the first thing you saw?
Oh yeah. It's so bad.
Hot pink, introducing the first female baseball player. Oh.
Yeah. Well, they can hit the ball just as far as us men, according to the video game. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Little Christine Smith up against up against what's his name, Garrett Cole. I'm sure she's gonna hit a triple. You know,
turn that fastball right around.
Ridiculous, so stupid. But again, fantasy is fantasy. And they just can't help themselves. As far as tonight goes, I've got Paul and Philip Collins on. They've done a lot of research and publishing on technological dystopia, UFO deception, and of course, any kind of paradigm-shattering events that will bring mankind toward what they believe may be a post-human world. So I think that is how easy it was for me to marry the recent chatter of Black Swan events with this, and we'll have a little bit of a fun, dark, stormy time tonight. Thank you for everything, Adel. It's great to be back with you.
Yeah, man. Awesome having you back on the show, and look forward to next week.
All right, bro. Take care.
All right, there he goes. Frankie Val of the Quite Frankly Show. Quite Frankly TV is where you find all things Frankie Val. He goes live from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Absolute badass in the independent media. He does one of the best shows out there. And Zach Payne of redpill78news.com. He's live right now on Red Pill 78. So if you want to go stop by and say hello, send a bunch of love from the 412 fam over to Red Pill and Zach's whole operation over there. He'll be live for another hour and a half or so. I can't remember how long his 5 o'clock show goes, but definitely go stop by and hang out with our brother Zach. My name is Adel Nero. My channel is 412 Productions. If those of you guys watching on Badlands Media want to come over and give me a follow, I'd love to see you guys on one of my shows. I go live from 4 to 6 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday on 412 Productions. We call the show Deplorable Discussions, and we have a a good time over there. Again, that's Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. The channel is 412 Productions. Come hang out with us on pill.net, Rumble, DLive, Cloud Hub, or Odyssey. And I'm at 412anon87 on Twitter, at 412 on Truth Social if you want to follow me over there. Otherwise, let's go ahead and say some thank yous to those of you who so kindly donated some gold pills to the show. And then we'll get up out of here. Floyd with a tucking it back cookie. Thank you, Floyd. Appreciate you, man. Boys Blanc, thank you for the cookie. Bro Dude, so just checking in, bro. Thank you, Bro Dude. 45-1 Actual from the No Prisoners podcast, dropping 451 gold pills. Thank you, brother. I'm looking forward to getting you up on the panel on Wednesday next week. I believe we have you coming on, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Omazon, thank you for the gold pills. This is a big question. Does the heifer identify as red, and isn't that racist? I don't know, and yes, definitely racist, 100%. Water Wizard, cheers. Thank you for the can. Matt 1776 in the house says, no one here gets out alive. Good book. All right. Have to check that out. Thank you for the cookie, Matt. Old Salty Dog says what Matt said. Right on. Average Joe Patriot says 412 Frank and Red Pill equal Patriots. Thank you, Average Joe. Appreciate the can, man. Cheers. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. 123 SKG hooking us up with a cookie. Thank you. Tomcat 01 New Jersey. This is another awesome show. Frank, Zach, and 412. Thank you. Right on, Tomcat. Thank you so much. And then Floyd says cheers to another great show. Glad you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed bringing it to you all. We did 1,868 gold pills. I'm going to hold over the scratching until tomorrow, since there's not going to be a whole lot in there today. And I do appreciate the support, guys. It's not meant to sound like a complaint or anything. Just going to hold on the scratch until tomorrow, and we'll have a bigger one for you all. But thank you to everyone who donated. I really appreciate you all. If you haven't hit the red pill button yet, please do that. Repost the show on your way out the door. Share the links, help people find the replay. And yeah, that is going to do it. For Frankie Val of QuiteFrankly.tv, Zach Payne of RedPill78News.com, my name is Adel Nero. This has been Taking It Back, a 412 production syndicated by our very good friends over on Badlands Media. I hope you guys have the best rest of your Thursday night. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time for another installment of Deplorable Discussions on 412 Productions. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next one.